Hey there, folks. I'm Matt Hansen,
And I'm John Johnson.
and you're listening to
Planes, Trains, and Comic Books.
the podcast where we discuss favorites we've reread, both classic and new comics we want to read, and everything else in between.
And here's the comic we picked this week.
Hey there, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of
Planes, Trains, and Comic Books.
Today, we are getting sacrilegious. We are reading a book that our Patreon members voted on. It was not us that chose this, so just blame them if you absolutely hate this episode or something. So, anyway, they chose between four books. It was, what was the
Our theme was we're so thankful that this isn't happening to us.
Yes, this is in our life. So we had four books with kind of like weird things happening in them, and this one is definitely a thank God this didn't happen to me, because Punk Rock Jesus is about the cloning of the Shroud of Turin, and the boy who is cloned is supposed to be like the new coming of Jesus, and he's on like a reality TV show that the entire America watches, and
It sounds absolute, like just the premise of it when Matt told me, like as we were going through like which ones we were going to put up there, I was like, yeah, that's it. That sounds insane.
Yes, for sure. And we should do a shout out to our patrons. Thank you, Otaku Mike, Christian, and Hoku for being awesome patrons and voting on these. And if you would like to be a patron and vote on our monthly Patreon episode where we vote, or Patreon picked episode, you can go to our Patreon at Planes, Trains, and Comic Books, all one word, at gmail.com.
Nope, that's the email.
That's the email. I'm sorry.
It's patreon.com/Planes, Trains, and Comic Books,
Yes.
all one word.
And
That's
you
what you're going for.
Yes, and you can email us at the Gmail I just said. But yeah.
But do that, because when you do that, Patreon gets one of our main podcasts from our two that we do out a month. Patreon gets to pick one of those, and patrons get a special exclusive podcast just for them as well.
Just for patrons.
And
And that goes to every tier. So if you're any supporter on Patreon, you get the free podcast whether you like it or not. So anyway, so American Jesus, Punk Rock Jesus.
Punk Rock Jesus.
That's another comic.
You were thinking American Vampire, right?
No, there is another comic
Okay.
called American Jesus.
Oh, okay.
But I should say, Sean Murphy, who is the artist and writer of this, did art for American
American
Vampire.
Vampire. That's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
So,
So we have we read Sean Murphy before? I don't think so.
wait, was Baby Teeth?
No,
What was?
I don't know who that
I'm
was.
trying to remember.
That wasn't an artist.
Okay,
That was Donny Cates
It was-
writing.
that's right. It was Donny Cates.
So Sean Murphy is someone I love. He is an amazing artist. He's the artist writing a book called Batman White Knight, or Beyond the White Knight right now, but he has a whole Batman universe that's just his universe. And people call it the Murphyverse because he's the only one that does anything in it, and it's fucking awesome. And he's just like a really, really good artist, and he still draws on paper with ink and fucking pens and shit. So that's amazing nowadays because no one still does that.
That's true. Everything's so much is digital.
Most everybody's digital, so it's so cool. You can actually buy his pages and stuff. And I mean, if you could afford $10,000 pages because he's super popular right now.
Oh, okay.
So, and a lot of them are of Batman, so you're not going to pay low price for those. So, but yeah, he's a very interesting guy. This was actually one of his middle career books. Before he got Batman, he did this. So he started off doing like an indie book that he published himself or published with Oni Press. That was just about like, it's kind of like a or not like a self story, but like a what's that called? Like a journey, like a person going through a journey in their life, semi-autobiographical, I think. So,
Okay.
like pretty low key. And then he got a deal with DC, and I remember his books coming out, but I didn't know who he was at the time. It was like right when he started, he was doing Vertigo books. So he did a Constantine book called John Constantine Hellblazer City of Demons, which actually was made into a movie.
Okay.
Like an animated movie. And then he did a comic called Joe the Barbarian with Grant Morrison writing.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So I believe this was his first self-written DC work.
Oh.
where like he did the art and the writing. For
He did
it.
everything
And it's an
for it,
original story. It has nothing to do with other characters and whatnot. So
It's not in the Murphyverse.
not in the Murphyverse, but yeah, I think and originally it was supposed to be a graphic novel, just a solid graphic novel, no issue breaks or anything in it, and you can really feel that when you read it because the story just continues, and you're like, wait, where's the issue are we on? I don't know. There's barely they don't put the covers in where the breaks were. So like you're just reading it like it was supposed to be read.
Yeah, and there was gonna say that it doesn't really feel too often like there's a really like oh my god cliffhanger.
I figured out where they were
goes,
every time at the end, and he did this because it did come out as issues eventually. But like he would do like a full splash page at the end on every issue, and I was like, oh, that's got to be like, and they're always like big and like dramatic. So I'm like, okay, that's got to be the end of the issue, and then the next one starts, and it's normal.
That makes sense.
Yeah. So so this was a 6-issue series that came out in 2012, which was right when I stopped buying comics for money reasons. So yeah, I did not see this come out on the shelves. If I had read this when it was coming out, I would have liked it a lot. Probably would have found Sean Murphy a lot earlier than I did, because I only found him after White Knight. The first one had come out in 2016, I think, or maybe 14. Might be 14 or 16, can't remember. And so I saw, like, when I got back into comics, this is really cool artwork. What is this? And then he did like a bunch of interviews that I saw, and he's also got his own podcast with another comic book creator named Clay McCormick, where they do Batman the Animated Series episode talk-throughs or whatever. So
oh, cool.
Yeah, like commentary, I guess, over it. So they're already in Batman Beyond on that. They have already gone through all the animated series, so that's pretty awesome. I love that podcast. So, and so I had gotten into those, and I kind of knew him at the same time I was seeing his artwork in the Batman books, and then I read White Knight and was like, oh, this is fantastic. So I was very surprised, and then I also got to meet him.
That's right.
Earlier this year.
Yeah,
so
you got to go meet him.
I got all my stuff signed. I brought it. I brought everything I own.
Matt was one of those people.
Yes. I didn't bring issues. I just brought like every hardcover that I owned of his, which isn't too much. There's not too many hardcovers of his. Some of his toys based on his artwork.
Yeah.
And he had like a crowdfunded book that I supported last year or 2 years ago, and I got prints from that, and so I got him to sign those. And he was nice and was like, "Oh yeah, I'll sign everything." So and the comic book store was like one item or like 3 items only or something like that. And I was like, "Oh, let me just pick 3." He's like, No, I'll sign them all." I'm like, "Okay, I love you." So we should be friends. So like, yeah.
Yeah. So open invitation, Sean, if you'd like to come on the podcast.
Yes, there is. Although I don't know what the fuck we would talk about. Like, so you remember that time? I think we said this last time, but yeah, it's like Chris Farley interviewing
the Chris
Paul
Farley
McCartney.
show. Yeah. Hey, you remember that time you made Batman White Knight?
That was awesome.
That was awesome.
Yeah. So yeah, this was his. It's kind of a personal book. It's like one of his first, or it is his first writing and drawing for DC, and it deals with, as you could imagine, religious tone or religious concepts or themes, specifically from an atheist point of view, because he is an atheist, and so like I thought that was interesting. You don't see too many books that are just like outright, like, this is where I'm coming from.
Yeah.
But also, like, I feel like there's a bit of nuance in this book once you read it all. Like, you got to get through like the first 3 issues where it's pretty, I would say, more like anti-religion and stuff.
Very blasphemous.
Yeah. I don't know about blasphemy, but he's just saying like all the characters that are supposed to be good are saying things that are against religion or things like that. So. And then the bad people are definitely stupid bad people, and they're religious people. So, but I will say, like, if I was super religious and I read this, I would definitely be like, what? Like, I mean, I would get through it because I could probably, it's only 6 issues. It's not that long. And by the end of it, I think I would be like, oh, okay, like I see what he was doing. It wasn't just like a fuck all Christians or something, but there is a lot of nuance in the last couple issues that really give the book more layers than just I hate religion or whatever. So, and he says, I have the deluxe version. You didn't read the deluxe version. You read the regular trade. So in the deluxe version, he mentions like he wrote the first 3 issues, or he had the main plot for the first 3 issues way before, like in the mid 2000s when he was doing the original Vertigo work. And then when it actually came out from Vertigo, he worked on it, and his wife gave him some comments about like, oh, you should soften this thing. You should add these characters that give it a little bit more like nuance, or like because not everybody who's a Christian is terrible or something. So everybody in it was kind of like a straw man that was a Christian before, and then he added some extra elements, and he also makes like the hero of the book, or not the hero, but the Jesus in the book, not very sympathetic. I will say you sympathize with him, but then you're like, wow, he's kind of a dick. So there's definitely like layers to it that I think if if you are not completely sensitive religiously, it is a good read all the way through. But definitely there are jabs at Christianity in this, and all religions actually, because he mentions not just Protestant Christianity but Catholicism. He talks about Islam. He talks about Judaism. So like the main religions that like are big in the world, he talks about those ones. And one thing I love about this book, it's probably my favorite thing about this book, is from the Catholicism side, the main character of this book is not Jesus. The main character of this book is a guy named Thomas, who was a boy during the late 80s, I guess, maybe early 90s, where there was the religious fighting between Protestants and Catholics in Ireland. And so he's an Irish guy now, he's fully grown, but he was in the IRA, which was the Irish Republican Army.
Yeah.
And that was I'm going to say it from the point of view of, I guess what I always heard was they're a terrorist organization that would do bombings in England and stuff to try to get out from under British and Catholic rule in Ireland. Mm-hmm. I might not have all those facts straight, but that's what I got from this, at least, and from what I kind of know about it. I haven't researched it too much in the past, so I just know there was a lot of stuff in the early 90s or late 80s about it in movies and TV. Like I remember, obviously you had the Cranberries song, Zombie, which is like very, obviously that's about this. And then there's also with that Sinead O'Connor, where she
that's right,
ripped a picture of the Pope up. Yeah. So there was definitely a lot of, this was a tension thing, and people don't seem to remember it in America very much. So it's kind of an interesting topic to throw into a book that's in America, or that's like takes place in America. So I thought that was cool, and he's an interesting character because of that. And I say he's the main character, even though this is called Punk Rock Jesus, because it starts with him, and we follow his story from childhood to like nowadays, and like what happened with him in the IRA and why he got in it and why his family was in it and stuff. So we start off in the first page with his family praying at the dinner table, and he's a little boy. His name's Thomas, like we said. He's Thomas Jr., his dad's Thomas Sr., and the mom is there, and they're praying, but there's obviously something wrong. It is not a very calming dinner. Because,
no, I mean, they're all kind of like gruff, and then the dad has his rifle out, like on the side rifle, on the side of the table, just like leaning there, like obviously ready to go if he needs it.
Something is happening. So what's going on is like this is like a night where they think something's going to happen, and something does. People attack. They see shadows outside of their window. Luckily for them, their dining window is facing the street. So as far as like the window is concerned in there, so they see like exactly who's coming for them. And the dad tells the son, like, you wait in his closet and don't open this door unless me or mom say your name. And so he closes the door, and then the kid just hears boom, 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 and like like people dying.
He says, "Don't open this door," and he gives him a gun.
Oh yeah, he gives him a gun, and he points it. The kid points it at the door, and it's like ready to go.
Yeah, someone tries to open this door, and you don't hear us calling you. You just shoot.
You shoot him, for sure. And so people break in. He hears shooting. We're getting it mostly from inside the closet with the boy, because we don't see all the dying happening. And then someone tries to open the door and doesn't say, hey, it's me, it's your dad or your mom. So Thomas shoots through the door, and when he opens it, we see his dad lying on the floor, presumably being shot by the kid. And so then we see another man who ends up being his uncle. I don't remember what his uncle's name is. Do you remember what his uncle?
No, I don't recall. Maybe they don't say it. I don't think his name until much further.
Yeah, way later. But it's not really that important. You just need to know it's his uncle. So his uncle comes in and is like, oh, good, I found you. Like, those sons of bitches attacked your family, and I'm here to save you. And then, like, his dad, who was just wounded, like he's shot in the chest and he can't talk because he's also shot in the neck. But he's like, the dad is like reaching up to his brother and he's like, you know, trying to talk. There's something he's trying to get out for sure. And the dad and the brother's just like, oh yeah, he's too far gone. We just put him out of his misery, like, and then shoots the dad in the head. And then he, from that point on, takes Thomas Jr. under his wing and says like, we will get those motherfuckers. Like, I'm gonna get revenge for you, and I'll teach you how to get revenge on them. So that is why he joins the IRA, is because his uncle was part of the IRA, and also he thinks these people killed his family, so he's going to go after them with his uncle. And so yeah, that's like the introduction of this character, Thomas, and then we cut to him being like full grown. So that was him as a kid. Now he's full grown.
Yeah, it's like 25 years.
25 years later, and it says it's 2019. So this is set in the future in about when this was written, I guess 7 years, right? So like he's banking on a lot of stuff happening in 7 years.
Yeah.
Which is funny now because, you know, it's 2022 and, you know, just like his projections of things happening was way quicker than it would have.
Yeah.
You know, so we see in the background, like he pulls up on the motorcycle that his dad had when he was a little kid. So he inherited this motorcycle. That's a pretty big character itself in this book. He's whenever he goes out, he's always on this thing. He even modifies it to be like this badass like chopper bike.
Yeah.
At the end, which is really cool looking. So, and Sean Murphy loves to draw vehicles, which is rare for comic book artists. So, he like really spends a lot of time getting the details right and then making them look really badass.
Nice. They do. Yeah. All of the engine parts, like you can literally see like all the pieces of it. That's definitely
yeah. And then when he like modifies it to be like comic book, not real stuff, it still looks like it fits in that. Like it would work potentially, you know, even though I'm not sure about the physics on that bike because it has like a 6-foot reach out or whatever on the front wheel. But I'm like, yeah, you know what? I buy it because he's going all out on this chopper. So yeah, we see a billboard that says, you know, it's Christmas 2019 coming soon. J2. The second coming.
The second coming.
So this is what's going on. There's a reality TV show called J2, and they have found a woman, so now genetics have gotten so I guess prolific or whatever. Like they could clone babies now, or clone humans. They even talk about like how they've always been able to clone stuff, but just morally people haven't done it. But finally, enough of those morals. This company, what is it, Ophis or?
Ophis.
Yeah, Ophis decides like, you know, we're gonna clone someone, and the first person we're gonna clone is Jesus, and we're gonna get that DNA from the Shroud of Turin, and we're gonna clone a baby Jesus, and we're gonna impregnate it into a virgin mother, and she's going to give birth, and then that will be Jesus too.
Jesus too, yeah.
So
I do like the geneticist they have. It was Dr. Sarah something.
It's Epstein. Right?
Epstein, that's right. Yeah, how did I forget that? So yeah, it's Dr. Sarah.
Yeah, that's a name that's pretty out there now.
Pretty new, yeah. Dr. Sarah Epstein, and like she's been geneticist for years, and like they also talk about things like, you know, like global warming, I guess, has been happening and stuff, and so she has been trying to like slow that down, and she's also like the polar bear population was decreasing, so she like genetically created more polar bears, and
she cloned polar bears. And so she, like, we find all this information out on like a we'll say an info dump or an exposition dump, but it's done well, where she's being interviewed by who would that be, Larry King,
like a Larry King figure,
on a news show about this whole thing. Like, why are you're a scientist, why would you like even involve yourself with a reality show and a corporation like this,
and with religion, and
with religion? And she's like, well, I don't believe in any of this God stuff, but I do believe in like global warming and all that stuff, so we need they're funding my other projects. So she's creating a new algae that will grow on the surface of the earth, or of the ocean, and that will I guess it's like it eats carbon dioxide like crazy. So that's good because it will stop greenhouse gases, I guess. So she wants to do that, and that's like the most important thing, because in this book there are for sure, like, by the time because it starts in 2019 and it goes through the ages of Jesus as he grows up. So by the end of this book, I think it's 2030 2033 or something like that, or 2034. So by that time, the polar ice caps have melted, and like Manhattan is flooding because of that and stuff. So there's things that she's trying to stop now, but it takes place really quickly over the book because they just cut to like years forward.
Yeah.
And you don't know until you see like Jesus and he's like, oh, he's 5 now instead of a baby and stuff like that. So, so the whole time in the background, she's trying to create this algae. So you just think about that. She still wasn't done with it by the end of the book. And it was like, oh man, like, and she had like full reign to like work on it.
Tons of money and
yeah. So, and she still didn't get it out before the end of the book. So, that's kind of interesting, I thought. But yeah, so she's telling all this stuff. Like I said, she's saying, oh yeah, they got a virgin girl, and they're impregnating her with a cell of a like I guess I don't remember how I guess it's one of her eggs and
then they're putting the DNA from the shroud.
Yeah. So and that's pretty much it. And then you get this guy who looks like who was that guy that was Two-Face?
Oh, Aaron Eckhart.
Yeah, Aaron Eckhart. This dude would
100%.
be Aaron Eckhart in this movie if they ever made this into a movie. His name is Slate, and he's like the head of Ophis, or at least this project in Ophis.
Yeah,
and
definitely the head of the like all of the happenings with J2.
The J2 compound. So he actually gets an island. It's a pretty small island. It's kind of like, I don't know, maybe like 40 or 50 acres of an island, and then like builds a towering skyscraper on it, puts J2 on the side. It is pretty close to land though, because there is a bridge to something. So like, it's just maybe like it's Catalina Island, kind of like from San Diego. It's like, right, you could see it.
Yeah.
It's just like, oh, you just build a bridge there, you're good to go. But it does separate them enough that, you know, if you want to keep people off the island, you definitely can. And if you want to keep people on the island, you definitely can. So
wink, wink.
Yeah. So not that that's foreshadowing or anything, but so we meet all the cast of characters. Who is there's a so we have the main the mother, the Mary mother.
Her name is Gwen.
Gwen, yeah. And then we have the tech guy. His name is Tim, right?
Tim, yeah.
Tim. And then we have Slate. We have Thomas, who's Gwen's bodyguard. Mm-hmm. Because so he went to prison, got out, and then was hired by Slate to be the bodyguard for this because he did like a bunch of co-ops or like what co-ops training or whatever, like special forces training when he was in the IRA. Yeah,
now we basically learn he's basically become a de facto badass, and
he's like a mercenary.
He knows like all these different languages and all these different like
like when he was in the IRA, he trained in the Middle East to like learn all the weapons stuff and whatnot, and so he knows a lot of the languages from the Middle East, so he can talk to them if he sees them later on and stuff. So he's just he's just a badass basically. He knows a lot of fighting and he knows a lot of self-defense stuff, which makes him perfect for the bodyguard of Gwen, the mother. The what do they call her?
The Mother Mary.
I guess they just call her that. Yeah, but so yeah, and then we have the other kind of main character in this book is an outsider. Her name is Debbie. I don't remember what her last name is, but she is part of the NAC, who is the National. What is it, like National something Christians?
Yeah, it's the New American Christians.
There you go.
It's Milton. Debbie.
Oh, Debbie Milton, and she is like the leader of this militant group. At first, they're just kind of like protesters, and then they end up becoming more and more militant as the years go on through this book. And she's just basically like, she looks like your average Midwestern house mom, but then like she's very, very religious fundamentalist. So I actually read in this special edition, he said that he named all these characters after his family, and he named this one after his mom originally. And then he decided, I should probably change that maybe at the end just in case, because apparently his mom's super fundamentalist. So
yeah,
he was like, at first, I mean, I could see that like, oh yeah, I'm going to do this. And it's kind of like a jab. But then it's like, oh, maybe I don't need to cause more shit in my family. So like, I'm just name her. I don't remember what his mom's name is, but it starts with a D. So he just changed it to Debbie. And then that works out. That way no one's horribly offended during Thanksgiving. No awkward Thanksgivings, you know. So yeah, we see them, and they're like at the gates of the bridge or the entrance for the compound. So they're just there protesting because they are like, this is an abomination. he's, you can't just clone
You can't,
Jesus.
yeah, you can't just make the second coming.
Yeah, so they're all, angry and stuff. And I always want to call him Declan because the only way I know of the IRA is from the movie The Jackal. And so that's the name of Greg. What's his name? No. What's his name? Who's the guy from, not Greg Kinnear.
Dang it. Yeah, it's on the tip of my
Guy
tongue.
with the gerbil.
Oh my gosh.
Why can't I remember his name? Anyway.
Patrick, no, not. Richard Gere.
Richard Gere.
Goodness gracious.
There you go. We got it. So Richard Gere, who has other rumors about him, but he played a. Look up the gerbil episode in South Park, I think.
Yes.
Right? So, yeah, Richard Gere plays an Irish ex-IRA member in the movie The Jackal with Bruce Willis and Jack Black, which is one of his great performances in that. So, but yeah, I used to love that movie, so that's the only reference I have for IRA stuff or whatever. But anyway, so we see Thomas.
You almost said it.
I almost said
Declan.
Yeah. So we see Thomas pull up outside of the gate. So he's on the side of the protesters, and they're not clearing away, and then he kind of makes them clear away because he's imposing and he has a bag full of guns.
Mm-hmm.
And then they're like, you're not allowed to do anything to us. This is a peaceful protest. And he just takes a sign of one of the protesters and he smacks them in the face very, very hard. Looks like that dude would definitely be dead, or not dead, but very wounded in the face by this sign. And he, this part was great. This you just met this character. So the first page, he's smacking the guy with the sign. The second page, the lady Debbie comes out and is like, you can't do that. This is a peaceful protest and you cannot attack people. And he grabs her by the shirt and he pulls his pistol out and he shoves it in her mouth. And he's like, do something,
Yeah, you got a minute before this gun starts going off. Get the hell out of here.
And she looks very surprised, as you would imagine you would if you had a gun put in your mouth. So yeah, it's pretty aggressive.
Yeah. I want to say that you keep saying that you who you want to say, and every time I look at him, I see Frank Castle. He definitely could be yeah.
Ooh, I want to see Sean Murphy Punisher, although that would never happen
because he's DC.
But also he's burned a lot of bridges at Marvel. So
okay.
he I can't remember what it was exactly, but there was something where something happened between him and Marvel, and then he was basically just fuck Marvel, and so he went off, and then he's done stuff where he said too much to ever get hired again at Marvel, unless there's a whole change of guard there that will let him in. So,
gotcha.
But he's a DC guy. He likes DC a lot. So, but yeah. So this is a great intro, I think, to Thomas and him being a badass. And then this is the first time he's meeting Gwen, the Mary figure. So he meets her, and she, we see how small she is compared to him. He's gigantic. He's 6'4" or something. He's got super wide shoulders. He's wearing a cool leather motorcycle jacket and everything. I don't know. He's got a bag full of guns. So yeah, he just looks badass. So we find out exactly what's going on with the pregnancy and stuff. Like I said, they kind of skip ahead after this first issue, in years and stuff a lot. So this story moves. I will say that. If you're in the middle of it, you're how far are they going to go with this whole Jesus thing? And then they skip 10 years or 15 years. Okay, interesting. But the first 3 issues are pretty much in the same, at least they're with Jesus being a kid. So in this first one, we see that Gwen is pregnant, the whole what's supposed to happen because America doesn't allow cloning on its shores or whatever. So they have to take a boat into the middle of the ocean, and that's where they impregnate her. And then they bring her back, and she's already pregnant, so it's fine.
It's fine, yeah. Loopholes.
Yeah, moral laws are, able to be broken as long as they're far away and we don't know about them.
International waters, that's fine.
Yeah, it's all good. So she is impregnated on the boat, and then she comes back, and then we get the first hint of Slate being not really a good guy, although you wouldn't think he was anyway because he's the corporate asshole in this anyway. But Slate, I guess the doctor has a program that can show what Jesus will look like as he ages, and he's I want to see him older because she shows Gwen as what he's gonna look like as a baby, and then she's or then he asks, what's it gonna look like when he's older, like a teenager? And she's like, well, it gets like further and further away. And he's like, well, I just want to know, like, I can't remember why, but like,
Oh, because they have to appeal to the American Christians.
oh yes, so he wants to make sure that he's white and he's got blue eyes. And like he's got brown eyes in the picture, and he's like, no, make it blue.
Yeah,
make him blue eyes.
And she's like, but I mean, we've already altered it enough, like as far because like the things that she did alter were like to make sure like he would be like a boy, really resistant to like diseases and stuff.
Yeah,
like really a really good immune system, things like that. And then they're like, now he's going after like, well, and this is a part of the reason again, like you said, like we kind of found out that he's kind of really a dick. Is that like not only is he like, oh, you got to fix these things to make him more like like the children's Bible that that we show in America.
Yeah.
Light skinned, blue eyed, but he's like, yeah, why do you think we altered and had Gwen get a nose job and like they
got her tits,
got her, yeah. So like all these
she's on a diet program, like exercising while she's pregnant.
Yeah. So she doesn't get a huge belly from more than just the pregnancy.
Just from the baby. Yeah, so she won't gain weight.
Yeah.
So yeah, like
this is terrible.
Yeah, it does all this stuff, which you could totally see. I could totally see this happening. Like, and people would watch this shit too. This is like literally the Kardashians, but with Jesus's second coming or something. So
yeah.
And we were talking about this, but like. You said like some stuff seemed a little unrealistic, and I was like, but this literally happened to actual stars that we've seen like from reality shows. So, it's unrealistic, but it's a comic book, so you give it a little bit of
a little bit. Yeah, I mean, it has some Truman Show aspect to it. I feel a little bit.
Oh yeah, because like they're trapped inside this compound. So, So then like we just kind of get to know the characters more. We get to. See, like Declan seems like a loner. He doesn't really want to get to know anybody at first. But like I said, over the years, and that's one thing you got to remember while reading this is it jumps times. So like Declan at first is pretty standoffish.
He's a Declan.
Thomas at first is standoffish, but then as time goes, he kind of softens to the people. He makes friends with some people, like as good friends as he's gonna make. You see, there's like a little bit of a love, like an interest in Gwen and him, or between them. There's like a little, like flirting, I'll say, or like connection. It's not a flirting; it's a connection.
Yeah,
where you're like, oh, is there a thing there? The way he drew him.
Yeah, but I almost feel like it's more of like a protection safety. It feels like when you would have like Arnold or Stallone or something, and they're like protecting like. Oh, I mean, basically like a young girl. Like it's not like it's almost like a father-daughter kind of.
You could read it like that, but in the notes, he says Karen Berger, the editor, said like to add a little bit of of relationship tension between them. So
okay, I guess maybe a little, but I don't know.
It wasn't enough to matter. They'd never like have sex or anything or have a relationship. So it's just like whenever they would look at each other, you could see like, oh, they're looking into each other's eyes and like. They're holding on each other's faces and stuff. So it seemed like, oh, maybe there is something romantic there, or there could be, but they never go into it because of what happens in the story. So then
I like that they keep the religious with Thomas because they're like, he's like, yeah, this is when this baby is born, like basically, yeah, like it's the second coming of Christ to me. Like,
yeah. And Thomas, who was in the IRA, is very, very like religious. And he believes all this. Like he says, yeah, I think this is the second coming of Jesus, which is why I'm here to protect him.
Yeah.
Like I was going to say no. And then Slate was like, it's Jesus. He's like, oh, okay. Yeah. Yes, I will. Okay.
I'm in.
Yeah. So, and I think a lot of the people, like a lot of the tension in this book is based around that. Like either if he is or isn't, whether people think he is or isn't, is like the main point of tension. And I think it's funny. Some people at first are like, get rid of him. And then as the kid grows up and becomes like more publicity goes, like they even fake miracles and stuff. And you see that they are fake for sure. Like about what happens. I can't remember what the first one was, but
we're kind of jumping.
We'll jump around a little bit.
Yeah. So some of the miracles are like one of the first things he does, I think, is he spells the word Genesis with baby.
Oh yeah,
blocks.
like when he's born, like they catch him on camera spelling Genesis, but it's like obviously like you could totally fake that any way possible. Yeah. Like there's lots of ways you could do it. So, but yeah, so before he's born now, we see him, Thomas and Tim, who's the security guy. Tim or Thomas does not want to get to know anybody, like we said. Tim is like, we're going to have to be here for a long time. This is like a 15-year project minimum because this kid's got to at least become like 18 or whatever. So like maybe we'll get out of there earlier, but for sure we're going to be you're going to be guarding him and I'm going to be doing security for this very, very top secret, or not top secret, but like very secure compound.
Yeah.
So he's like, we better get to know each other.
Yeah. We got to work as a team. So
yeah. So he like kind of forces Thomas to like get to know him. And so that, they have like a good rapport that they build on later on too. So yeah, and then we see like how torn the mother is. Like Gwen, like she wants to do it, but she was only doing it because her parents could like pay off their house and stuff. I was like, that's all they gave you? Just enough to pay off your mortgage? Like nothing else, Like it's kind of crazy. But so then they jump to like, okay, it's Christmas Day of 2019, and it's time to birth Jesus. Because, of course, they have to give birth on Christmas Day at midnight or whatever. So they do a countdown just like it is New Year's.
Yeah, like a New Year's ball drop.
Where all of America, all of the world is actually counting down. Because this isn't just America. It's everybody who's a Christian in the world is excited about it. So that was like a thing I thought was interesting because they do mainly focus on only America in this, except when they leave the U.S. for a little bit in the end. But this is the only time they really mention what the other world is doing at the same time.
Yeah, but it's definitely focused on like this Jesus is going to be like American Jesus almost.
Yeah, for sure, as he should be.
Yeah.
So Jesus is born. And then we get like one of the most fucked up things I could possibly think of being in a comic. I'm sure that this is still the first issue because, this like, okay, like I'm in the story. That's cool. So she gives birth. They bring out the baby. They're like, oh, he's healthy. And then they're like, okay, get the cameras out of here. Take the baby. Go look at him over there. And then while the cameras and everybody are looking away, the doctor, Sarah, gives the mother a sedative. She goes to sleep. Turns out, she was pregnant with twins.
Twins, like Luke and Leia.
Yep. And yeah, it's a girl twin. And so obviously Jesus didn't have a twin sister. We can't have this baby here. The doctor, I can't remember why the doctor did that.
What do you mean?
Or like, how did it happen?
It happened on accident. I don't think it was purposeful.
Okay, I thought it was like a reason for it.
No, I think it just happened. And so the doctor the Slate was like, this can't happen.
Yeah, so they figured out a way to hide it.
Yeah, well, Slate says that like he's got a home that he's gonna take the baby to. Home. Everything's gonna be fine. You just get the baby out and like we'll take care of it.
Yeah, so she gives birth to the second baby while she's asleep, and then the doctor takes it, and then they like take the girl baby away, bring boy baby back in. Like, oh, he's all cleaned up. Here you go, mom. Look at the camera, and like they distract from the taking away of the girl baby. And then Slate's like, don't worry, I'll take her to the new family tonight. And then, luckily, Sarah Epstein, or Dr. Sarah Epstein, is not an idiot. And so she's like, I'm going to follow Slate and see what's going on. So she follows Slate, and Slate, he had taken the sedative that she gave the mom earlier. And they mentioned, like, how much she gave the mom, and it was still, like, that much that he's going to give the baby. So he injects the baby. Under the tongue, so if they happen to find it. Yeah, if they do like an autopsy, they would be less likely to find an injection under the tongue of the baby of this sedative, which is supposed to kill it. And then, if that's not bad enough, he dumps it in the ocean, like from the harbor or whatever. Yeah. So like he goes to a harbor, dumps it off into the water, and leaves. And luckily, Sarah followed him because she gets the baby. Well, we don't know that yet, but she ends up getting the baby. But we just see him kill the baby and her being like, like, and that is like obviously the end of that issue. Like if you're gonna end an issue, it's gonna be right there, right where that baby gets thrown in the water. Dumping the baby in the water. Yeah. So then we cut to the year 2020, June 2020. So we got Jesus is a toddler, and we're seeing Declan still doing all the
Thomas still doing.
Oh my God, I'm gonna say it every time. Thomas is still doing security. And we see that Debbie is still harassing them. She's got boats now. It's like a water world attack she's doing. It looks all Mad Max and everything as they get all these ragtag boats out there. And they're doing protests. And Thomas, I'm going to say it every time. Thomas just takes his boat and rams it into the other boats, blowing them up. So they all get like thrown into the water. And
Yeah, I was like, there's definitely a thing, but do they kill people or they just
okay?
knock
So
the boat?
this is the thing. I thought this is comic book for sure. Like in every Batman comic, he's like, I will never kill people. But then like he does stuff that would obviously kill people.
Yeah,
It just they don't die in the comic. So there's a thing with Declan where he's like, I will never kill another person, but he's security, so he's doing all this badass stuff where he's like, I'm gonna drive a boat through other boats, and then it's like, oh yeah, they all live. They were hurt. They went to the medical bay.
yeah,
But none of them died.
died.
None of them died.
Some of them may be maimed and like in comas now, but nobody died.
Yeah, I will say, like I was like, obviously someone would have died if you drove your boat over another crowded boat, but and it explodes too. Like, it's like, okay, they didn't die, but they were just covered in 3rd-degree burns and sitting in the ocean. I'm sure that felt great.
Oh,
And
yeah.
So, but they say like
Salt in those
minor
fresh
wounds.
wounds.
Slate even says like it's minor wounds. They all had minor wounds, and they were taken to the hospital, and we paid for all their medical bills. So don't worry, it's fine. So yeah, we get like just an interesting thing, and then we see like Debbie tries to break into the compound, like that was a distraction or something, and she actually like gets into the compound and is scaling the like cliffs and stuff to get her. And then Declan gets his net gun, and shoots it at her and pulls her off the cliff. This would kill her too. Like she falls like 100 feet. He pulls her off the cliff with a boat. So like he just hooks the rope to the speedboat and
drives
away, and then she gets pulled off the cliff and then falls hundreds of feet down into the water. So at very fast speeds. So it's not for nothing. She definitely got hurt, at least. So
Yeah, I do like. There's a line there because Tim was driving the boat and he's like, "Man, you're just like Moby Dick," and he's like, "You mean Ahab? Moby Dick was the whale," and he was like, "Nah, you're just a dick."
yeah, exactly. I thought that was funny too. Yeah. So and then there was like a fun line where I don't know if this is right now, but like Slate is talking to Debbie, and she's like, "Oh, we're gonna sue you," and he's like, "If you sue me, like it won't be good for both of us. Like basically, you give us ratings, and we like you're one of our stars. You're the crazy neighbor who harasses us or whatever,
Yeah.
So like it ends up like it'll help you more if you just play along. You do your thing." You don't sue us or anything. It'll just make you grow.
Yeah, basically, he's like, we'll always pay for like any kind of like injuries and like pay out for things like that, and we'll never press charges against you. Why don't you can just keep doing your thing?
Yeah, surprising. So we should say that when, well, we don't know this. Like we could guess it, right? We could guess that the baby was saved by Dr. Epstein, because we get the announcement that Sarah is pregnant.
Oh, Sarah's pregnant. Oh, and one of the things with Sarah is that apparently she had a long history when she was younger that she wasn't able to get pregnant, and that's why her husband left her. And that's why she focused on science and getting into genetics.
So she says, "Oh, I figured out a way with all this genetic breakthroughs we've been doing for Jesus to get myself pregnant. So I just impregnated myself with an anonymous donor, and here's my baby. It happens to be around the same age as JC, and so they call him Chris, but
yeah, Chris, because it's close to Christ.
Yeah, because they're like Jesus would be weird to call him, so let's call him Christ or Chris. So, yeah, that's so there's like that whole obviously as the reader, it's not a very concealed plot twist or anything, but it is there, and if you weren't paying attention, you might be like, wait, what? His sister, like later on, but. That's a thing.
But we'll kind of spoil that. Yeah, that we find out it is his sister.
Yeah, but there's other plot twists that are much better covered that I liked a lot.
Yeah.
So, so like that's going on. So Chris has a sister he doesn't know about, and they're growing up together on this island. And the nice thing is that Jesus is obviously from birth trapped in this compound. He's not allowed to leave because. For protection reasons and also to like protect the company's investment, he cannot leave the island, and neither can Gwen, so they're trapped there. But the doctor says, no, I'm leaving every night with this child. I'll bring her back, and she could be in the episodes or whatever, but she's leaving with me every night. Like she's not part of the show on the island, so or like stuck on the island. So that's one thing that happens.
I the other main thing I like is like, so now now the story is gonna progress, and every issue is gonna, obviously we're gonna this is where we start to see things go, and it's basically like how Jesus slash Chris's life is going to be growing up here on this island for this TV show for the whole world to see. And like, so one of the first things they do is they're like, okay, like, now he's a toddler. He's going to start going to school and start learning things. Well, he's going to learn what every, American kid learns. He's going to learn math. He's going to learn English. He's going to learn creationism. He's going to learn history. He's going to learn faith healing.
Yeah. And they're like, wait, what? It's like, Epstein is not happy about that, but he's like, look, it's what we got to teach him.
We have to teach him that if he is Jesus.
Yeah, he's got to know this
he's
stuff.
got to know this stuff.
Yeah. So it's very like, obviously they're playing to a certain crowd with this reality show,
And they're also like, nobody else can be there, but he still has to have somewhat of a normal life. So like, he's gonna have hologram like children with him in the class, and
because he can't actually be around kids because they're for his safety or whatever. So
it's very wild.
It's fucked up. Can you imagine like a child that was never touched by other children or anything, never had real playtime?
Yeah,
just like fake hologram. I mean, I guess that's what kids are doing nowadays with iPads. So. But like, what's the outside, Daddy? I've only seen National Geographic shows about the outside from my iPad.
I didn't know it was so green.
Yeah, the light hurts my eyes. But yeah, so then we're also seeing like the effect that like the realization is hitting Gwen that like this is her life from now on. Like she's not allowed to leave to see her parents. She's not allowed to do anything pretty much. So she's stuck here and she just has to like go with the plan, so yeah, that's hitting her. And then in between like poignant moments with Thomas, it's not usually Thomas walks in on something, sees something that reminds him maybe of his childhood. We cut to Thomas's life as a child in Ireland. So we're getting like, we cut to him being like, he's not a toddler. He's like a little bit older. He's probably like around the same age that the killing happened, right, of his parents. So we're seeing like, okay, he's with his uncle. His uncle's going to a bar. He's telling Thomas Jr. like, hey, you see those guys over there in the uniforms? Fuck them. They are the bad guys. We kill them. Like, so he's setting this kid up to be, like a future soldier in this army. And you just get to meet some of the IRA guys that are like part of this, and you get to see what the occupying force of Britain looks like in this. So it's just kind of interesting. And you see like him looking at a picture of his parents on the bar, the back of the bar, whatever that's called, and he's like sad. And then you see it, like there's a image of him as a boy sad, and then it's an image of him as a man sad, and it's like, oh, that's sad. So like he still has the same trauma, like, but that's like when he's being raised like to be this, this kid now, this like soldier in the IRA. So then we cut back to nowadays when he's older, and he's seeing like similarities, I guess, just with like his childhood was taken away. It's like this kid's life is kind of being taken away by this corporate entity, and he feels bad for the mom. So he takes Gwen up to her room, and she's acting kind of weird. She's just kind of passed out, and he's like, okay, she's tired or whatever. Takes her to her room, and he finds a bottle of alcohol under her pillow. And that's weird because no alcohol is allowed on the island. Well, it turns out that for ratings, Slate was like, why don't you drink some alcohol? Become an alcoholic, basically, like encouraging her to drink a lot to like cope with the depression.
Yeah.
And that is like ratings gold because you want to see a drunk mother of Jesus, fail at being a mother. And that's, fun to watch.
Just, yeah. And on top of that, like Sarah, the doctor, is also trying to give her like medication for like, postpartum depression stuff. So it's like all of these horrible things interacting with that should not be out,
Yeah, all together. So we cut to a little bit later in the kid's life. He's grown up more. And it's like, isn't like the kid is playing in the pool or something, and he's okay. So Tim, the security guy or the tech security guy is watching the baby. The mom went to go get milk, and she accidentally pulled out wine and filled it, or it was juice. She went to go get juice and accidentally put wine in the kid's bottle because it would look the same or something in the
Yeah.
fridge. And then because it was hidden, it's hidden wine because there's no alcohol allowed. So then the cameras saw that Tim was like, wait, this is wine. And then everybody's like, oh, he turned water into wine or juice into wine.
He turned like juicy juice into wine.
It's a second miracle. So that's like the second miracle that happens. And then she knows what happened, though. She's like, that was my secret stash.
She says, I am a terrible mother,
Yeah.
and I just gave my baby wine.
Yeah, it was a bit of a wake-up call. So she tries to escape. She gets into Slate's car and then drives it into the fence, and the fence doesn't move at all. It's like, I mean, it budges a little bit, like as far as like the bars bend a little bit, but the car explodes. Like the car just hits and like giant crash. It doesn't explode because she lives, but like, you know, the whole engine is total. The car is completely gone.
Yeah.
And she almost, you know, she wasn't wearing a seatbelt, so she could have died, you know, and I guess she just didn't. But she definitely looks like bloody and whatnot as she gets out. And that's like her breaking point. That's where you see her kind of like check out and realize like, I'm never going to get off this island. Me and my child are trapped. It's going to be terrible. So when Thomas sees this, he's like, all right, I got to do something because he's starting to feel for her. He's like, I'm gonna, don't tell anybody. I'll take you to your parents' house. So he takes her to her parents' house, and we find out that her parents aren't there anymore. And there's a reason why they haven't contacted her. It's because they've gone, or we don't know where they are at all.
Yeah.
They could be dead for all we know. But their house is completely abandoned. It says foreclosed on it. So it turns out that the money that they got to pay off their house, they actually had to use to put up like a security fence because everybody was trying to get, you know, paparazzi interviews with them and stuff. So because it's the mother of Jesus, or it's the parents of the mother of Jesus. So
the grandparents of Jesus.
yeah, it's God's second or whatever. You know?
Mimi and Papa
Yeah,
of Jesus.
Yeah. So yeah, it was kind of a sad moment that they share where they realize, oh, like we don't have anything, or she doesn't have anything to go home to. Like her parents aren't even talking to her anymore because they're in hiding or whatever from all this bullshit. And yeah, so she has to basically stay there, and she resigns herself to just being a zombie, like being drugged out by the antidepressants and whatever other meds they're giving her just to be like on camera. And Declan does not, God damn it, I'm going to say it every time. Thomas does not like this, of course, but he can't really do anything about it. So, yeah, that's like the main thing that happens while like the kid's a baby still. And then when they talk about like her trying to escape over and over and over, but Thomas has to keep pulling her back.
Yeah. And she tries like every which way to escape. She, you know, from the water, she almost drowns, but then she gets saved. Just everything. It's terrible. And all this time, you know, she's going between like crazy postpartum depression and trying to escape, and then also trying to still be a mom to
As best she can.
Yeah, to the second coming. You know, and it's a crazy give and take. And they show like, you know, him growing up and him like,
yeah, he's maybe like 4 now or 3 now or something.
And he's getting, you know, like Bible stories told to him in his classes, like holograms and stuff.
Yeah, and the first holograms are like, it's Jesus, and he looks all cartoony. And then they're like, and then the program started to get a little more realistic about what happened in the Bible. And then you see like God being like death and like murdering, like the flood happening.
Yeah, it's like Noah's Ark. And it's like everybody's drowning.
dying, and the kids are terrified by this. So, yeah, like we just see the kid growing up. We see the polar bear and the kids, you know, the polar bear is another kind of protector of the kids.
Oh yes, so she Dr. Sarah created, like you said, she genetically cloned polar bears, and she has some of them, and one in particular, she altered its DNA.
Cola, she names him Cola.
Yeah,
Coca-Cola bears.
Yeah, and he is like basically a puppy dog of a polar bear. So.
Yeah, so he's like a big Labrador. Basically, what we'll say. That is in a polar bear shape. Which
would be pretty adorable. Because otherwise polar bears are terrifying.
Yeah. So we're seeing now, like, as the kid's growing up, he's starting to believe that he's Jesus because people are telling him he is. His lessons are saying Jesus did this. Yeah. Jesus can walk on water. Jesus can do all this stuff. So, you know, he's 4 or whatever, and he's like, I'm at the pool. I'm going to walk on water. And he doesn't know how to swim, apparently.
Yeah. I did like the other daughter
the daughter of Sarah, who's the sister of Jesus, is named Rebecca.
Yes, and yeah, so they you know they're close as you can be as their friends growing up too.
It's the only kid that he gets to see is Rebecca. So.
Yeah, And she's like, I don't think you're gonna actually walk on water.
He's like, yes, I am. And he jumps in and he immediately drowns. And the mother, of course, was like, I don't know what she was doing. She was away doing something. I don't know. But the polar bear ends up pulling the kid out, and he has drowned, so he has to get CPR. But Chris does survive, and then that's like another snap for the mom. The mom's like, fuck you. Like, why was my kid being on, like, not watched? Because she was out somewhere else, or somewhere else in the compound.
And he's like, kids fall in pools all the time. It's fine.
All the time, kids fall in pools. It's fine. He's alive, right? And so this is like where you see how bad the toll is taken on her mental state. She's like, oh, you want a show? Like, I'll give you a show. And she like opens the door where all the camera people are trying to get footage of this, and she takes a knife and she slits her wrists on camera, like, or stabs herself with the wrist. So, it kind of shows her stabbing her hand in the picture, but later they say that she slashed her wrist.
I think she stabbed and like pulled down into it.
Okay.
Like, kind of like the long way to do it.
Yeah.
I almost said a different thing, but the long way to do it.
Yeah. The long way to do it?
Yeah, where you go long,
no, that's
down.
the right way to do it.
That's what I was trying not to say.
Oh, okay. My bad.
You're fine. In general, you going lengthwise down.
It's down the road, not across the street.
Yes. Yeah. Anyway, so yeah, and he's like, "Oh my gosh," she's like, basically, you're gonna, we're gonna have a deal here, and like, no more miracles. He needs to go to a real school with real children. Otherwise, I'm gonna die, and we're not gonna continue.
Yeah, I'm gonna keep trying to kill myself if you don't. So he says deal, but like this doesn't actually work out well, because then Thomas has to take him to public school and guard him at all his like play dates and everything, or like at every class. So it's a lot of work. But then we see him grow up. He's like a 13-year-old now or something, and they show another thing that the company does is he asks a black girl out to prom or middle school prom or whatever, or the dance, and she says yes, but then the company's like, he ain't dating a black girl. That's not going to do good for ratings. So
they make it like the dad says, no, you were not dating a white guy.
Yeah.
And then he ends up miraculously going to the dance with like this the head cheerleader.
Yeah. Who's stacked.
Yeah. And the picture's super awkward. It's pretty fantastic.
Yeah. She's like all over him in a bikini or whatever, or like a super short dress, I guess.
Yeah.
I guess she has like garters on and stuff. And then he's just standing there in a tuxedo, and he looks like a super awkward 13-year-old, which is what he is. So, it's just like showing his life as he's grown up now. So, we also find out that the mom has completely left the island now. She goes over, like, there's like a big thing that happens where she pulls a gun on Declan. She gets one of his
Thomas.
I'm sorry, Thomas. I'm gonna get it by the end of this. So, she pulls Thomas's gun out and tries of his pocket and tries to like break out, and she threatens him, but she doesn't shoot him in the end. And Slate ends up being like, you know what? Fuck you.
We don't need you anymore.
Yeah, you know what? He's old enough now. He's getting his own ratings. We don't need you anymore, Mom. See ya. Just pushes her outside of the gate. And then that's the end of like her being there. But now, like, you literally took away his mom. So the kid is not feeling good about that. He's freaking out. He's like, my mom is gone. What the fuck are you talking about? So then we get this thing. And this was an interesting idea, and it was confirmed. I want to know what you think about
it. Okay. So because like I wasn't sure.
I know.
Okay, good.
I read about this. So the mom is now in like a rehab center getting treated for alcoholism and stuff, and it's high up. It's in like a skyrise building. She gets outside of the balcony door, and she tries to kill herself. She jumps off, and all of a sudden, an angel flies down and grabs her, and then puts her back in the bed, and then says like, what the fuck are you doing, kind of thing. You're the mother of Jesus. And then she wakes up in a cold sweat, but then when she goes to the mirror, she sees there are handprints on her shoulders where he grabbed her, and she's like, what the fuck? So this is like a big point. So did you think this was real?
I was curious. I'll be honest. Since she saw the hand stuff on her, I was like, oh wow, is this like
he's throwing in mystical
stuff?
Now
we're getting like actual like oh, maybe this really is the second coming of Jesus.
Yeah.
So I would say at this point, yes, I did think for sure. I was like, oh damn.
Right.
like, you know, I don't want to spoil too much as we get closer to the end. I was like, okay, maybe not. But like at this point, yeah, I definitely thought.
Yeah. So he said it's definitely not, but he wanted to show like people who believe can have very, very profound experiences that science can't explain.
That's true. Yeah.
So
I mean, that is, I've heard many a story of things. It's like,
Yeah.
you know, people can't explain what happened to them, but it happened to them and they know
and that
what
makes
happened.
them believe. So this makes her more of a believer. Like she gets more like, oh, God is real and I was saved by an angel. So she actually joins the NAC.
Yep.
The, what is it again?
The New American
American
Christians.
Christians. So she joins the NAC and is now part of them, and they're trying to get JC back because now they have the mom support, and that's kind of like a big sticking point
Yeah.
for them.
And now they're on the side. Yeah. And now, like, working with this, and they're like, oh, well, he is a second coming of Christ, and he shouldn't be.
Yes. So originally they were like,
yeah.
he's not the second coming of Christ. Now, after like 15 years or whatever, they're like, he is Jesus Christ.
And how dare you, like, have this TV show about him? He should be here for us, not for, like, entertainment purposes,
Yes.
basically.
So it's funny to see the switch of thought processes.
Yeah.
On that. But now also they have his mom, and it's kind of emboldened them. Also, you're kind of like, do they actually believe this, or are they saying this because the mom is helping them and they need her to be on their side? So
Yeah.
they don't really go into that, but that's kind of, you could see like, oh, there could be other forces at work, like as far as ulterior motives for certain people, like Debbie and Slate and all that. So
I like that we get a little bit. So, like, it also shows, like, Chris, Jesus's learning is like he's kind of, because he hasn't had as much like that real interaction, and now that he's going through all of the motions at a real school, like he's like not doing well in certain areas, but he also does have a really high IQ.
He's like a 185 IQ, which makes sense because she would genetically modify him.
Yeah,
to be
exactly.
Super smart. So yeah, he's a super smart kid, and he's growing up.
Yeah,
He's a
but he
teenager now.
don't necessarily have what they call the social skills.
Yeah, which makes sense.
Yeah,
because
he
grew up in a
hologram
fucking
babies.
compound. Yeah. So yeah, we see now the NAC is breaking into the compound, and I thought this would be interesting. They don't really say it, but obviously the mom knows a lot about this compound, so she would be a good person to have on your team if you're trying to break into it. So even if they change stuff, it's still like the basic structure of it.
Yeah.
So Thomas, of course, is fighting all of them. The main thing that happens is that the bear starts attacking people and helping Thomas out, because Thomas is fighting a guy who's like another special forces kind of guy or something, and he's about to lose. The guy actually he's getting the upper hand, and the bear tackles the dude, and Thomas shoots him with his own gun, which is actually a tranquilizer dart gun, but not before the dude slits the bear's throat.
Yeah.
So the bear dies, and it's very probably like the most sad death in this thing.
Yeah, I would have to
I could
say
see
so.
most people be like, not the bear.
Of all the characters, why did you have to kill the bear?
I love the bear. So, and then, it's definitely not the saddest death or the most fucked up death, because the bear dies. You're like, oh man. Then, so the mom sees, or she runs up to where I guess Chris is supposed to be. She goes up there, and there's a room that's just open. It has doors that can lock and secure them, but they're open. And there's also a lot of camera people and stuff around.
Huh.
And Slate and Chris and the other people are sitting in the room, and he doesn't proceed to close the doors. And that's interesting. He does tell the cameras to turn off, though, at that moment. And then the mom rushes in, and as she does, Debbie's like, wait, it's a trap, I think.
Yeah, she's like something doesn't feel right here.
Yeah. So as Gwen comes in, the doors slam shut on her, like as she's leaping through the doors or whatever, and cut her almost in half. They clutch around her her midsection. And so she's like, Chris, as it closes on her. Then Chris goes up to her, and then you just see the doors say crack, pop, crunch, as they continue to close around her. And she's fucking killed in front of Jesus.
Yeah.
And as you can imagine, that does not make Jesus feel good about being in this compound as much as even though he didn't want it before. He really doesn't like this shit now.
Yeah, and it also really pisses off Thomas, because he's like, I'm supposed to protect. I technically was supposed to protect her, but I'm also supposed to protect Chris, Jesus now, and you just killed his mom in front of him. That is messed up.
Yeah. like you're emotionally fucking him up
Yeah.
even more than before. So this just makes JC or Chris go militant mode, right? Like he's like, fuck this place. So he starts training. He pulls out his jump rope, get the Rocky music going. And then
he starts listening to secular music,
punk rock music.
Yeah.
So he goes to Thomas's room and finds the record collection that Thomas had, and Thomas was in a punk from the 80s. So he gets all these punk records, starts listening to them. He also starts reading a bunch of books. I don't remember why. I don't know why they have these books. Oh, I get maybe Epstein. It's Epstein's library.
I think it's Epstein's library.
Okay,
yeah, because
so Epstein has a bunch of like books that he actually names, which are like, you know, the God Delusion and God is Not Great and stuff by actual authors. So I guess it's like if you wanted to look these books up, you could.
You could, yeah.
But yeah, like they're all like atheist books or they're mostly just like anti-faith books or whatever. So he reads those. He gets super into that, and then, you know, he's listening to more punk and stuff. He actually goes to the history room, and he has like, it's like the moment in The Fifth Element when Mila Jovovich is like, war in the machine, and then it shows like all of war.
Yeah.
He goes to his holographic classroom, and he like takes off, or he has Tim take off the
Christian filter.
the Christian filter. Yeah, I was gonna say the child filter, but yeah, the Christian filter. And it says like, show me the history of the actual history of the world, and then it goes through all the different things that like happened in mostly Western Europe and stuff, but like Galileo, you have like all the secular thinkers, like the founding fathers and stuff. Then you have Darwin, Carl Sagan, all that kind of stuff. So, and then like how Christianity has fucked up the world with like wars and stuff like that. So he gets all militant about that, and then because he listens to punk now, he starts shaving his head, and this is all happening in the background as Slate is giving like a TV like exclusive on like a big stage, and he's like, and right now we're gonna bring out the man himself, JC, Mr. Chris, and then he does that, and like JC's doing this just as he's cutting his hair into a mohawk just as he is bringing him out. So he comes out all punked out on stage behind Slate, and Slate's like, oh my god. But yeah, we get to see him. He's got his like striped pants. This is like 80s punk too.
Yeah.
So it's like he's got his suspenders and his like armless tank top, wife beater shirt as they used to call it.
Yes.
And,
he's got some like fingerless gloves on.
yeah, he's got a
like,
choker chain. He's got dog tags, and then he's got also some, I guess, piercings that he did with clothespins and stuff. and then he's got his like spiky mohawk. So instead of like a straight fin, he's got little spikes coming up from the center of his head. So yeah, and they're like really tall too. So it's a cool mohawk. I like it. What'd you think of the design of Punk Rock Christ?
Punk rock Jesus. Yeah. I liked it. You know, it's yeah, it definitely was like, okay, like seeing like kind of the information he was getting, and then the music he was listening to. I was like, okay, I see how like this is like leaning into like, you know, because he's learning now about atheism and about just all of the like getting the filter off of all the things that he was learning as he was a child. So it just definitely like felt like, okay, this fits for like rebelling against, you know, the machine, or against the corporate world that he lives in.
Right.
So
like the what's that called? It's like a world that's made for him, but it's made to keep him there. Yeah. You know, so it's like the Truman Show. Like
exactly. Yeah.
Like that. So he takes the mic from Slate, who's like dumbfounded. He's like, what? Like, you know, he doesn't realize what's going to happen. And basically Jesus says, you know, this guy killed my dad. Fuck him. Fuck this company. Or not kill my dad. He killed my mom. And like, fuck all this stuff. And also, fuck all of you. Like,
and I'm not Jesus.
Yeah, I am not Jesus. And like, goes on just a tirade about how stupid these people are and everything. So then he proceeds to try to run out of the compound. And he does escape eventually. He gets out, and Thomas actually helps him escape. And they go on like the run, I guess we'll say. Then we get some like cutbacks into Thomas's life growing up still again, where we see now he has become the soldier that his uncle wanted him to be. And he's doing that, of course, because he thinks that these fuckers killed his parents. And like, yeah, we're just seeing like the fighting that's going on in Ireland and how it's kind of like he was made to kill people. Like they talk about him being like his dad was talking about how like he found him one time with a gun and he was like, I was worried my boy was like born for murder or something, you know? So like they definitely talk about him being like really, really prone to being a good killer.
Yeah.
And there's one thing that I thought was cool was he like I guess on his first big like job or whatever where he goes to kill people, he kills 13 of them like single-handedly, and that starts his tattoos, which he gets a cross on his back for every person he's killed, and they call him the Cemetery, which is badass.
Yeah, that's a pretty
because he's killed so many people. So you see on his back, he's got like an endless amount of crosses that are tattooed on his back when he goes shirtless.
Yeah.
So we get to see, like that with him and like how he got his name. Then we get to see New York now. It is a couple years later. JC is now like 20 or whatever, and he's going to see a band in New York. We're seeing New York is flooded now, like the Statue of Liberty's skirts are covered in water, like the island is sunk, or the water has risen. And so there's a punk band named the Flak Jackets that are playing in New York at Madison Square Garden. And I don't know if it's Madison Square Garden. I don't know. I thought it was Madison Square Garden, but it might not be. It's just some place. And JC is going to see them. And then something happens to their lead singer. What happened? Oh, yeah, he got saved. He became a Christian. And so the band goes out on stage and is like, our singer left the band. Who wants to audition to be our new singer? And JC is like, I do. So he walks up there and he, punks out, and then he becomes the lead singer of this band. And that's also like the besides him saying his big speech earlier, he says like the what is it, like the news is seeing him on stage doing this, and he says, Jesus hates you all. Go fuck yourselves. And like he just goes crazy. And it's a pretty awesome page where they start playing music and stuff. I thought that was a pretty awesome page.
I wasn't 100% sure if he was jumping or he was starting to float here too.
He didn't do jump lines. I think he wanted to make it kind of like ambiguous just for a cool effect. But like you see Jesus, he's jumped up, but he's in midair and he's in the Jesus Christ pose with like his feet kind of crossing over on the bottom, like he's on the cross. So you're like, wait, is he lifting off the floor or is he jumping? And we'll say he's jumping because I know that this is not, there's no supernatural stuff in this book.
But it looks really good. Like, yeah, it definitely makes it ambiguous a bit.
Yeah, and he's giving them the finger too.
Yeah.
So he's doing a great job. I'll also say like, this is maybe like his prototype for his Joker model in White Knight. You'll see when we read that, but like,
oh, okay.
His Joker has a very similar dress.
Is it punky?
No, but like the dress.
But
like,
the dress to him.
Not the wife beater, but the suspenders and the pants. If you just add purple and
that's true. Yeah.
Green to that black and white color. We should also say, did we say this book is black and white?
No, I don't know if we said that specifically.
Yeah, this book is black and white.
This whole book has been in black and white.
Yeah, so you're just seeing line art, which is great for his art style. Like his black and white is amazing because he does it all actual in real life. So you're seeing like the actual techniques of how to get like cool lines and shit like on paper on this. So very interesting. But anyway, so he is now part of this band, the Flak Jackets, and he's super militant and stuff. And he decides to like take the band on a big world tour.
Yeah, and he needs help with it a bit. So he's gonna get Thomas to like, I guess basically be like their road security.
Yeah, and Thomas ends up getting Slate to like okay it, I guess. Like yeah, it's ratings for the show, so yeah, he'll allow it. So he gets them to allow them to leave America, and then like so they're gonna go on tour. They're gonna go to Jerusalem, and then before that they're gonna go, or like after that they're gonna go to all the like biggest Christian states and cities to do a big tour and to be like a fuck you to Christians or whatever. So needless to say, he's definitely gone pretty militant atheist at this point. And I will say it's shown in a way that like you could tell probably that the author is atheist by this, but he makes the kid very unlikable. Like he's a dick. So like, yeah, he's an atheist and he's saying things that he might agree with, the author might agree with, but at the same time, it's like, this is a teenager who is very idealistic and set like in his ways as far as like he believes 100% that all like atheism is the only way, the right way. he almost believes dogmatically
Yeah.
in atheism. So he's going all out, and that I think that's one of the subtle critiques in this book is like, you know, it's bad to be dogmatic on that side too. You know,
Yeah.
like just live your life and be good to people, kind of thing. Like,
Yeah, he leans into this teenage rebellion and his atheism, but he goes, like full head into it, and like almost is like uncaring of the world now.
yeah. We should also say that Rebecca goes on tour with them and stuff. So that's
That's true. Rebecca's there and part of it. They also one of the things he wants to do. He specifically asked Dr. Sarah to see if they can get the shroud to do like to live and like test and show that he is not Jesus. Yeah,
and she says, I was never given a shroud. I was given a DNA sample that was told to me that it was the shroud. So I can't confirm or deny that it was actually the shroud. So it's basically like full 100% bullshit that he is Jesus. And that's confirming it right there. One thing I liked, so Rebecca wasn't, you know, she hasn't been like raised as in this dogma as much as he has, and hasn't had as much trauma as he has either. So even though he's like super militant about his atheism, she is not. And she's not really atheist. She's just kind of, I guess you'd call her a deist, where she believes there's something out there, but it's not an interventionist God.
Yeah.
It's just another power.
There's a higher power.
A higher power. And so at one of the concerts, she is like, hey, there's a kid here for the Make-A-Wish Foundation. He wants to get your autograph and meet you or whatever. And he's like, wait, is that a religious organization? And she's like, does it matter? Like, he's a fucking dying kid, you know? And so that's what I'm saying. Like, they kind of show him being a dick in certain ways.
Yeah.
And so she like ends up talking him into, you know, going to this Make-A-Wish kid, and the kid's in a wheelchair, and you can tell he's a really big fan. And he says like, hey, like, I just want you to know, like, I'm a big fan. And I know this is like weird, but like, I'm also a Christian, but like, I love your music and stuff. And I feel like, you know, your lyrics challenge me in my beliefs, and I really like that. And JC is like, I don't, that does not compute. Like, how could you be like, in his mind, he's kind of thinking that. And then the kid's like, would you bless me?
He's like, I know it's not your thing, but it'd be really cool.
And he's like, but it's not, I'm not Jesus, kid. Like, I'm not going to bless you. But then he says, how about I like, you know, dedicate a song to you and like keep like well wishes in my heart for you. And the kid's like, yeah, that's great. You know, like, that's what he really wanted. But like that works too. You know, like, and it's kind of like a nice moment where you see his wall come down. Where he's what he should be, which is like a nice person, a good person, besides just being an atheist or whatever. So, you know, that's what I think it is nuanced, but he's throwing these little things in to make it more like not so hard against Christianity in general, or like pro atheism necessarily. Because I don't know about you, but I've met some pretty annoying people from all sides.
Oh yeah.
So like,
there's so many. There's people that are those extremes that are vocal that you see on both sides. And
yeah.
They're all of those people are pretty terrible people.
Yeah. And one of the things that also happens that kind of re-solidifies how much of a teenager he is, and I feel like this is kind of the crux of the end of this story, where so Debbie is still doing her thing with the knack. Over the years, they've gotten more militarized. So they're like basically kind of like a militia now, and which makes sense because if you think like, okay, the waters are rising, maybe the government doesn't have a full hold on
everything,
what's going on as much anymore. You know, maybe, I don't know, but like they seem like kind of Mad Maxed out in this. Like they have little doom buggies and stuff. They're riding along the tour bus, saying like, "Bring him out." You know, Jesus is, you know, give us this fake Jesus or whatever, and because they're saying like now he's the Antichrist. That's their new turn, is that since he's become an atheist and gone public with his band, he must be the Antichrist, not actual Jesus. So Thomas saves them by like crashing their car, or the Debbie's car, but she's about to die. Like she's actually really injured, and Thomas takes her to the emergency room she saved, and then like they're at the emergency room, and she says, this is like the point that I was like, oh wow, this could have been like a turning point for Jesus. But he or she says like, hey, like you could have just left me to die, and you didn't, and like maybe I've been really fucking bad, but like what just happened here has kind of like made me understand things differently. And then Jesus is like, let me,
Well, it's weird because like they're leading. So that's what they lead up to is it has her like she has this crazy moment and she, she's attacking the bus and they want him out and then she gets in an accident because of Thomas and she's like almost on Dora's death step but he like helps to save her and then like Chris JC doesn't understand why Thomas did that and he's like well let me I kind of explain why and he talks about how like when he was in the IRA and then he like
we'll talk about that in a second.
Oh, okay.
But like I just wanted to say like the moment where they could have turned where she could have gotten less militant and so could Jesus. Like she reaches her hand out to him and says like, forgive me basically. Like I want to be a different person. And he's like, puts his hand out and then he's like, loser.
Yeah,
and
just like a Ric Flair, like,
yeah, he pulls his hand away and then like doubles down on being a dick. So, and then we'll talk about what you were going to talk about, which we get right before this little meeting with JC and Debbie. We get the little back history of what happened to Thomas. Why doesn't he kill people anymore? Why was he allowed out of prison after killing 4 people and getting captured by that? And so he's killed many more than 4, but the 4 was what he got caught on. He killed 3 police officers and 1 child. And so, that's what happened was he was going to do a car bomb on a checkpoint in Ireland. And right as that bomb was about to go off, he like drives up, he's about to leave the car. A school bus pulls up and Thomas says, oh, like we got to cancel this. And his uncle's like, collateral damage, man. Like, fuck them. They're British kids or they're like North Irish kids or whatever. So, or I don't know which side it was. Yeah, so
but it doesn't matter.
It's the other kids we don't like. It's the kids of the people we don't like. So fuck them. And Thomas is not cool with that. So he gets on the bus, throws the driver out, tries to drive the bus away, and then the bomb goes off, and one of the kids died. And he saved all the other kids on the bus, but that was like that's what made him be like, I will never kill again. Because now he thinks he's going to hell because he like killed someone and he killed like an innocent. It wasn't like the police or whatever of the opposite faction. And that was like the poignant moment with him that made him turn. And this could have been the moment that turned for Chris, for JC, but
yeah, and I just thought there was a couple pieces to it that I like too because he like so that happens and like he goes he gets caught, he goes to jail, and he has like his own like religious moment where he like has like a vision of like the Virgin Mary being like,
oh yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah, you can't like basically like if you want to get into heaven after all of this killing that you thought you were doing like in the name of the Lord, it was definitely not. Like you cannot kill not one single person now the rest of your life.
Yes.
And that's part of the reason why like it was very like that cartoony thing where like he definitely did some things that probably should have killed people, but miraculously none of them died.
Yes. And you never see him shoot anybody unless it's like in their legs or something.
Yeah. Or rubber bullets.
Rubber bullets, yeah.
Rubber bullets, tranquilizer, or like in like nets or things.
Yeah, he doesn't use actual bullets. So.
And right before that conversation and that was another reason I thought maybe Chris was going to have that good moment with Debbie was that he didn't understand why Thomas saved her, and he talks about how like when he was in prison and then he found out that his dad, he thought he was in the IRA this whole time, but he wasn't. He was, but he.
Well, is that right here? I thought that was later.
Oh, I thought
no. So he has that vision of Mary when he gets arrested first.
Yes.
We don't see what happens after he gets arrested. So he just has that vision of Mary. We see that's what makes him go, "I'll never kill another person." And then we cut to modern day where he is. Where that happens with Debbie and JC. They both double down. JC says, I'm going to throw the biggest concert ever in Jerusalem where Jesus was and just be like, fuck all of you. So this is a problem, though, because Thomas says, look, you've been going around America. We have laws here that generally people stay within, and also like Secret Service and the government's been protecting you and stuff that you didn't know about, but that's what's been going on. They have a deal, like a contract with the government to protect you as well. So if you go outside of the U.S., it's going to be a thing. And he doesn't care. Chris is like, we'll be fine.
Yeah.
You know what? We'll be fine. Just take my word for it. I'm not Jesus. I thought that was funny. Like, why are we taking orders from this not Jesus kid? Like, why, like, wouldn't we be like, but you're not Jesus.
But you're not Jesus.
So why would we be fine? I don't understand. But he's just super militant and he's single-minded or whatever. So they go to Jerusalem.
But he's just basically the most famous person like now at this time. I guess.
Yeah, I guess is what it was. Yeah, they can't kill him because he's so famous. It would be like a big thing. So this is where we get like the what actually happened with Thomas, Thomas Jr. So he's in jail. He just saw Mary tell him, "Hey, don't kill anybody." And what is it? No, it was that after this where she says, "Don't kill anybody."
I thought that was part of the.
I think it is. I don't know. At some point, she says, "Don't kill anybody." It's a vision of Mary, and also Mary looks just like Gwendolyn or Gwen.
Or Gwen, yeah.
So that's why later on when he sees Gwen, he's like, "I must protect you," like because she like that, and that was before he met her. So that's also like one of the other like, wait, is this real?
Is this real?
Not,
Yeah,
you know?
exactly.
Was this a real thing? But it's I think it was just trying to be like poetic or whatever in the art. That it would just be cool if it looked like Gwendolyn, and then later on it's Gwendolyn. So, we see that he gets pulled in to the interrogation room. There's a policeman who says, "I need to show you something," and he shows him a video that his dad took the day before they died. Turns out his dad was not in the IRA. His dad was mad that his brother was in the IRA and didn't want to get involved because his family, he's got his family. And so he said, like, I guess his brother threatened him and said, like, look, if I can't trust you to shut your mouth and like join us, then you're a liability and I might have to do something about that. So in fear, Thomas Sr. went to the police and said, I will rat out everything I know about the IRA. Well, I guess this got back, either that got back to the brother or the brother was already like, I can't trust you. So it wasn't the cops that came to shoot up his house when he was a little kid. It was actually the brother. And that's why he was there so fast. The brother killed the dad and then also made it look like the little kid killed the dad. Like Thomas Jr. killed his dad with the shotgun. So like, it was not all real at all. So then this is like probably my favorite part of this comic, like the story with Thomas Jr. So he sees this video and he's like, what the fuck? So he like breaks out of prison or like he's about to get transported to a jail.
Yeah.
Because he says like, oh yeah, I'll like be on your guys' side. So they put him, he's so big they don't have handcuffs for him. They put him in plastic like zip ties. He's able to get out of those. He breaks out. He takes a police car. He goes to the bar that his uncle is always at. He proceeds to murder everybody there. That's why I think after this is when he sees Mary, because after this
you're
says,
okay.
She says, "Don't kill anybody else now." Like now that you've murdered all these people. So yeah, he kills his uncle, shoots him in the face, and then takes a picture back from that was over the bar,
of his family.
Yeah, of his family, and then he gives himself up, and then that's why. And the reason, that's when he sees Mary right after that.
Okay, so, it was right after that.
Yeah. See, John, you're skipping
I was skipping ahead. I didn't mean to.
So, yeah, that was like the big reveal that the dad wasn't in the IRA and the uncle was a motherfucker that, like, made this happen and turned him into an assassin, basically, who was trying to, like, it kind of felt like Constantine, where Hellblaser's, like, always trying to, like, save his soul because of what happened when he was younger.
Yeah.
So, it kind of feels like that a little bit, which I don't know if that was part of it at all, but it's similar enough. So I always try to relate everything back to Hellblazer and Swamp Thing. So they're going to do this concert. They're setting it up in Jerusalem. This is a problem because you have Arabs, Jews, and Christians all mad about this because it's Jerusalem, and those are all Abrahamic religions based on the Torah, the Bible, and the Quran. So like, they're all based in the same root, religion or whatever. So, it's a problem. And this isn't America where he's protected. So immediately as they like pull up to the venue, terrorists attack. They attack the tour bus.
Yeah, they kill, and the lead guitarist dies, actually.
Yes, the lead guitarist, Rabbit, she dies. The drummer, who's like her boyfriend, is super fucking sad and just like, what the fuck are we doing here? Declan, goddamn Tom. I had it going for a while where I wasn't saying it. So Thomas rushes after these guys. And at first I thought, oh, he's not going to kill him because he just kind of like pushes a cart over one guy. But then he picks up an AK-47 and he proceeds to murder these guys. Like big time, like murder them. So, and it's just to protect Jesus because he's like, there's a conflict now, right? Because so he saw Gwen as Mary and as Gwen. Mary said, don't kill anybody ever again. Gwen said, protect Jesus no matter what. So he's like, I was doing what you said, kind of, both of you. You know, like he doesn't know what to do, but now he's pretty sure he's damned. But he's doing it to protect Jesus. So that's like the big turning point for him. And they get out of it. In the meantime, Slate sees all this going down and he's like, fuck it. It's over. I'm gonna go with Muhammad 2.0 and we're gonna clone him instead. So that he gives up on the project. Lord. He sets fire to the island and kills the whole J2 project, and including the doctor's notes, all her algae research and everything, all that's gone. So because of that, when they come back, she like turns evidence, I guess, like states evidence against Slate and Ophis, the company, and is telling like, this is everything they did. This is all the illegal shit they did. And at first it was like, why are you telling us now? Like you were there the whole time. And she's like, well, that they were doing, or they had my research, you know, but now it's gone. So fuck them, you know? And, we also like, is this where they find out that like Rebecca is his sister?
Yes.
Yeah. So there's like a whole thing where like, we finally get the reveal that Rebecca is his sister. We knew that as the audience, but JC did not know that. And no one else did either. So, so now they're kind of like a family. We see they come back to, are they back in America? Yeah, they're back in America now.
Yeah.
So the bassist died officially, or no, the lead guitar player died officially. Mm-hmm. So they're all in this hospital and it's all sad. The Knock breaks in and now they are like I said, a militia group now. They are ready to actually kill for what they believe. It's been 20 years of buildup of this or whatever.
Yes, so. And we're going to kill this Antichrist now. Obviously, This is not Jesus. This is the Antichrist.
So Rebecca tries to get Jesus to not go on this helicopter to leave the building. And he says, no, I got to go. I'm going to do it. We'll get him. And so she actually convinces Thomas to stay. And so Chris leaves with the rest of the band on this helicopter. And then the Knock shoots it down. Jesus dies. And that is the end of Jesus Christ 2.
Yes.
So
GC2, Chris, no longer.
Yes, exactly. So this is where, you know, Slate says like, oh yeah, we're gonna do Muhammad 2. That's the new plan.
Yeah, I love that he has to like testify. Looks like in front of Congress. Basically. Yeah. And it's basically he's just like smirking the entire time. Like obviously,
he knows they're bought.
Like obviously nothing is gonna happen.
It's all theater, John. It's all political theater.
What are you talking about?
So. And then we see like they're kind of rebuilding, I guess, in the lawsuit that Dr. Epstein had against Ophis and Slate. She won, I guess, the property that the island was on and whatever is in there. Yeah, money and whatever. So she's rebuilding to, I guess, continue her research. She has cloned another polar bear, and that's like, I guess they name him Coke, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, Coke. Cola was the older.
Cola and Coke.
So
why not?
Yeah. So that's kind of where it is. That like we said, we learned that Rebecca is the daughter, or is actually his sister, and so then we get this. So we find this out because she's like, "Hey," to Thomas, or Dr. Epstein's like, "Hey, Thomas, just so you know, like this is how I found Rebecca." Like, and she tells him what she saw that night. She actually has video. She like filmed it on her phone, or like whatever iPad or whatever they had. And of him injecting the baby, of Slate injecting the baby, throwing it in the water, and then it's like, that's what Slate did. And then we get Slate.
This was so good. Yes, I'm sorry, I'll let you say
the best ending.
This to me felt like Get Out kind of a little bit. Just as far as like you're like, okay, like is this gonna like person gonna get away with it or is something gonna happen? And that's what like. So it's like, okay, Slate testified, and again, we're like, okay, well, nothing's going to happen with Congress.
Yes. So Thomas agrees. He says, yeah, nothing is going to happen with Congress. So as Slate leaves the Congress building, I guess, I don't know, we see Thomas pull up on his motorcycle. He looks at Slate, and he's like, I'm going to kill you, motherfucker. And so Slate's like, no, wait, Thomas, we can work something out. And then he grabs Thomas through the window of the car, and then proceeds to drag him on the street and he's dragging Slate while he's riding on his motorcycle, and then he throws Slate into an oncoming truck.
Yeah, just under the wheels of the oncoming 18-wheeler.
Yeah.
And it's in black and white, but you know this is
what happened.
Gory and horrible.
And you just get like a big splat, like sound effect, and then it just says the end. Like that's the end. So Thomas, he has broken his promise to Mary, but he did protect JC as much as he could, which is he's hoping,
Well, Rebecca is basically JC now, right? So,
sure, yeah.
Sister, so there you go.
There you go. So that is the end of the book. We end with Thomas killing Slate, which is pretty satisfying. So
yes,
John, would you give it? What'd you think?
I liked it a lot. I think the beginning, all of the like how this would work as far as like what it would be growing up again. Like this is this was picked in our like. Thank goodness this wasn't my life, and thank goodness that like. This wasn't something, you're not like a test tube baby that is like genetically engineered into like, and forced to pretend to be like the anti or the Christ, like I am, we're going to make a savior and like,
or you could even say brainwashed to believe you are the Christ.
Yeah.
Like that's all what everybody's telling you.
Yeah. And like, just, everything that his life was for the short, he was only like 15, 16 basically when he died. And it was pretty insane. And I have to say, like, I really did enjoy like the thought process of like how that would all work as far as like him growing up and and how that would be him on the island. I really enjoyed the first I guess the first 3/4 of it a lot. And I really liked all the buildup in the story. Like I like punk music in the culture a bit, but I'm definitely not as like hardcore into it. So like when he's like the point where it's like I understand we have to get him to like
to Jerusalem.
to Jerusalem and to like get his message out there, but the point of him coming like going to see this band and then being like I'm gonna be your new lead singer, that was the only part to me that I was like, okay, let's see where this goes. Like
I will say that is the plot of the movie with Marky Mark, where he becomes the lead singer.
Oh, you're talking about... except he can actually, like, sing it.
How do you know he can't sing?
That's true. Okay. Well, you're right. I couldn't hear him. I was like, I'm about to defend...
It's punk. All you got to be is like...
I'm about to defend Rockstar.
Yeah, that's the name of it, Rockstar.
Because I have good memories of that movie.
It's a terrible movie. But yeah,
Steel Dragon.
The movie Rockstar is literally that plot where he goes to a concert and someone's like, fuck our lead singer. Who wants to be his lead singer? And they get him. So... I mean, that's happened in movies where people are like, I love this movie. Even you said that, John. So,
what are you talking about?
Yeah, and then I was going to make the point, and I made the point when I was talking to you that, I mean, this has happened where, like, you have a reality TV star that is gigantic, say, like, Kylie Jenner or even, like, Miley Cyrus, and then they become musicians, and then they become big musicians. So, like, it's not unheard of.
Yeah.
Justin Timberlake was on Mickey Mouse Club, and then... is now Justin Timberlake. So like these things can happen, or like similar things have happened in.
Yeah, and I guess
life.
Also having that basically popularity from him being on TV, being this Jesus character, whether people believe that or not, but him just being that. Yeah, exactly. So yeah, it's still ratings.
Yeah.
So no, I totally get it. Like I said, it was that one moment I was like, okay, like let's get through that. Yeah. To get through, because everything up to that, I don't know. Like I said,
to be fair, that is like the shortest part in the book. It's literally like we're going to Jerusalem, and then it was like, and then they're back, and then he dies. So like,
no, I know. And then, like I said, I really like the wrap up ending a lot.
Yes.
So so overall, I really enjoyed it. I like the art in it. There's I like like this is my first like real like exposure to a full Sean Murphy comic, so I really dug his art. It kind of gave off a little bit of Frank Miller-y, a little bit I felt like Sin City vibes on this sometimes on occasion. Maybe a little Hellboy, a little bit. I'm not saying that it was those specific. I'm saying that like I got these feels. You could tell like probably what he grew up on.
Yeah, he really grew up on Jim Lee. That was like his thing.
Yeah. And so it was nice. I like his style. It feels like a a cool comic. Feels like something I would pick up and be like, oh, like yeah, I'm like digging this.
Yeah.
So I really enjoyed it overall. I would probably give this one, I'd probably give it a 7 overall.
Nice. So I had read this one before. So this was my second reading of it, and I actually liked it more this time.
Yeah.
I was like, now that I kind of knew what the story was, I got to read into all those nuances and stuff, and like really analyze the backstory. I love the backstory with Thomas and like all the IRA stuff. I'm like, he should just do a book about.
I was like,
Thomas
you would read a
and
whole book
IRA.
on that, yeah.
So, and originally he was like that. He shoehorned that character into this story because he liked him so much from a story he like never got to do or whatever. So he's like, I'm gonna make that guy the bodyguard, and that's like my favorite stuff in it. So, and I think like the main premise of Jesus being cloned and all that kind of stuff is interesting and it's fun and it's really fucked up to see like what this reality show would do and like all the stuff they made the mom do and all that. So I liked it a lot this time, even more than I did when I first read it. So I'm gonna give this one an 8. I enjoyed it. The art is, I mean, if you like his art, it's fantastic. Obviously, it's subjective because it's art, but like for me personally, I love his art style. So one of my favorite creators. Now, talking about Sean Murphy, we didn't mean to do this. It was a coincidence because you guys picked this one, but we're gonna do another Sean Murphy book for our Patreon exclusive podcast this month, which is gonna come out next Sunday, and that is going to be Batman White Knight by Sean Gordon Murphy. And so, that's his book that he came out with, I think in 2016 or 2014. I can't, one of those two. And it's basically like Sean says, like, I wasn't like a giant comics reader. What he gets his Batman knowledge from is Batman 89 and Batman the Animated Series. So like he took those two worlds and then made a continuing story from that.
Nice.
And then adds his own mythology as he goes through like the different series. Because he's on his 3rd book of it now. So he has
and it's beyond
it's beyond the White Knight is what it's called now. So it's Batman White Knight, then Batman Curse of the White Knight, then Batman Beyond the White Knight. So and then there's also like a Mr. Freeze one shot in there too.
Oh, nice.
And I think that might be in the actual book because it was like in between or something that he did that. And then also there's a Harley Quinn miniseries that his wife actually wrote that's in the same universe. So
oh, nice.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. So that's actually colored art from him. So you get to see what his art looks like with color, which is pretty fantastic. I love it. And this is what he's most well known for. And like I said, it was a coincidence that we just happened. We were like, yeah, we're going to do Batman White Knight because I haven't shut up about it. And John wanted to read it. And then you guys picked this one. And I was like, oh, well, we'll do this too. So if you would like to get our Patreon exclusive podcast every month, you can sign up for our Patreon at patreon.com/Planes, Trains, and Comic Books. This is our first exclusive podcast, but we'll be doing one every month just for Patreon going forward. Otherwise, you get our main podcast, which is twice a month, and then you get to vote on the second episode if you are a Patreon member as well.
Yep.
So
next month for the main podcast, we will be doing Animal Castle. This is one Matt read the first issue of, and
yeah.
I think he was like it was fun.
No, I liked it. Yeah, I thought it was good.
I am a sucker for animal stories, animal based, like anthropomorphic, where it's like animals doing humanistic things.
Yeah.
So I was like that sounds badass, and so like now there's like actual like full story arcs. So
the first 5 issues are collected now. So
I was like, let's do that.
and it's also like basically like what if Animal Farm continued? It's like Animal Farm, but it's Animal Castle. So
Yeah,
which I was down with because I love that book. So
that's true. I love Animal Farm.
yeah. So yeah, we're gonna do that for the first podcast of December, and then we got some fun stuff coming up for December as well because it's Christmas.
Yeah.
We're gonna do an extra podcast that's just a mini cast about a Spider-Man Christmas episode issue that came out by Darwin Cook. So that's gonna be fun, and we'll release that like right around Christmas. So you get a little extra one next month, but. Otherwise, like we said, if you'd like to join Patreon, it's patreon.com/Planes, Trains, and Comic Books. And if you'd like to email us, you can email us at Planes, Trains, and Comic Books, all one word, at gmail.com.
And we also have all of our social media. You can check us out on YouTube. We've got a lot of exclusive content on there. And we've got Twitter, which we'll see how long Twitter lasts. But
I'm sure it'll be fine.
Sure it will be. We'll also have Instagram and TikTok. So definitely check out some of our other content and sign up for Patreon if you are so inclined.
Yep. And we'll see you on the next one.
On the next one.
Bye.